News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Okay, so the Biden administration is pushing EVs on us further by their new EPA mandates, the most stringent ever. The Wall Street Journal says more affordable electric models is one of the things they say they're going to have to wait for, blah, blah, blah. I don't think the price even matters to me. Well, I know the price doesn't matter to me. I don't want to buy an electric vehicle. I don't care what the price is. It's not going to be cheaper, as we all know. It's not going to be cheaper than a gas-powered car. They're, on average, 10 grand more than a gas-powered car. But number two, the manufacturers can shut them down remotely, as did Tesla, when a man who was mad that the service people at Tesla never told him as he was getting closer and closer to needing to replace his battery. The folks there never told him that, and then all of a sudden they said, your battery needs to be replaced, it's dead, and it'll cost you 29 grand. That was a Tesla I think was worth over $100,000, I guess, but he said, I'm not spending 29 grand on a battery, to which they said, you're going to, otherwise we're going to lock you out of your car, because he tried to sell it, so that's when they locked him out of his own car. Are you getting this now? I don't want anything, and by the way, the Chinese have the ability... in some of these cases, I've read about hacks in the news where they can do hacks on cars. I don't want to have any kind of a car that can be shut off remotely. I do not want any car that can be shut off remotely. Apparently, even the OnStar stuff, some of the technology and that I was reading, may allow them to do stuff to your car, disable it or do this and that. I got to tell you, I don't trust our government at all, and I don't trust giving anybody outside of my immediate family the authority to be able to remotely do anything to my car. The most amount of remote I want to do is, getting a remote start for my house or something like that. A little button. So no way. Number two, you have to. The battery is the size of the entire car. And everything I've read says about every 5 years or so you have to get a new battery. And a new battery is a massive amount of money. I remember the parents who bought a used Nissan Leaf in Florida and for their daughter for college. And within a year, she had to get a new battery. And they bought the used car for 11 grand, I think it was. And the new battery cost 14 grand. So they had a useless car 1 year into it. And they were outraged. This is, and then of course we hear of electric vehicles catching fire. There was one in Plano we saw recently where they had service done on the car, and the next day they had it in their garage in Plano, and it caught on fire. And the real problem is with when it catches fire, like apparently it just spontaneously did or something. The day after it was serviced by the dealership. And apparently a big problem happens when these things catch fire and they're in a garage because that's attached to the house. They cannot put those out easily, and it can burn your whole house down. So what they did in this case was they grabbed the car. It was not too engulfed yet in Plano in the garage, and they yanked it out of the garage into the street, and they just put it out. And when you put these fires out, it's like a 24-hour event, and it's like hundreds of thousands of gallons of water for one EV. It's a disaster. So I don't want any part in those, and I don't see myself ever wanting any part of it because everything we're seeing now with technology is getting nothing but more and more intrusive, invasive, and control. You talk about digitizing our wallets and stuff like that, how they're doing in the EU, so they can control you, they can shut your wallet down so you can't go anywhere. I'm not interested in any of this crap. How about you? Joe Biden wants to make it so that most of the cars bought in the United States are EVs by 2032. By 2030, they estimate that 31 to 44% of all new light vehicle sales will need to be electric. Right now, last time I checked, it's about 3 to 5% if you're lucky of all vehicle purchases are electric. And the people that went nuts on these electric cars, they already bought them. And then what happened this past year, as we've read many news stories, I've documented on this show with different news stories, the EVs are just sitting on lots, collecting dust. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. Even when they lower the price, including Tesla has been doing that, nobody wants them. except for the people that are already Tesla fans or the people that are excited about it, which is fine. If you're into that, that's your business, but not me. So are you ready to get an EV with Joe Biden's EV mandates being rolled out today? Are you ready for an electric car? Will you be buying one before Biden's mandate or after Biden's mandate in 2030, 2032? Would you buy a hybrid, or are you still into gas-powered cars only? 800-288-WBAP is our number. Chime in right now at 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You should make that a preset. 800-288-9227. I'm not against a hybrid. I think I've not heard too much bad about them, but I'm also not convinced 100%. You know what I did hear, though? Hybrids are doing pretty well overall, and there's nothing negative about them. And in fact, I told you about this. A fascinating study I read 2, 3, 4 years ago was really interesting. It said the cost of an automobile, the cost of a gas-powered car and a hybrid car and an EV were all looked at and researched over a period of a year. And what they said was the gas car is the cheapest. It's $10,000 cheaper than an electric, and the hybrid is right in the middle. It's $5,000 more than the gas, and it's $5,000 less than the electric on average. So it's gas is the lowest. $5,000 more on average is the hybrid, and then $10,000 more on average is the electric vehicle. The maintenance, maintenance / energy prices for gasoline and or electric are literally the same with an EV compared to a gas. So you're out $10,000 with an EV, and it's the same amount of money per annum. That's not including having to get a battery, though. That might blow it out of the water. Greg and Little Elm, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Greg.
Hey, konnichiwa, Chris-san.
Konnichiwa. My son is there right now, and I'm getting the texts.
Wow.
There was a mini... I get the greatest joy from seeing these wonderful pictures, and I can announce now my son will be proposing to his girlfriend in Japan sometime before she gets back. She'll find out before she gets back. So I'm not breaking news to anybody else, and her parents and we know. So, but they're in Japan, and they had a mini what do they call it? Here, let me see here. They had a mini earthquake just happened now. She said about 2 hours ago.
Okay.
Anyways, but they're fine. It was a mini one. It's normal. Everything's okay. My son was in the shower at the time. Anyways, they're there.
Okay, well, getting back to the topic on hand about being forced, well, I wouldn't take it if I was forced. But if I really had to, I would go with a Tesla, of course, because it looks cool. But, yeah, the battery thing, that's just ridiculous.
So,
the cost of the battery.
So I would, if I had to do one, it would be a Tesla, because you know that he's going to be the least amount of cooperation with shutting us down and controlling our lives, comparatively speaking. Elon is,
right.
but I don't have any interest in buying one now in 5 years or not even in 10 years. I literally foresee it. My gas car, I have one that just hit 100,000. The other one's 120 something, 27, and I honestly foresee driving these things into the ground. I don't want to buy an EV. How about you?
Same here. I'm gas guzzler all the way.
I'm thinking to get. Go ahead.
Don't want to get. I don't want an electric vehicle.
I'm thinking of getting. I'm thinking of getting another gas for my next car. And the next car, I just don't want to be bridled down by anything or controlled by anything. What about a last quick question for you? Is what about a hybrid?
If I had to do a hybrid, I would probably go with Toyota, because I think they've got the technology down. Pat. So yeah, if have to, I'd go with that.
I am a huge fan of Akita Toyoda. He's not the CEO anymore, the head, but
right.
Toyota Cities in Japan. My son will be checking that out with his fiance shortly. He said famously, we can do 32. What one EV can do with one EV battery, we can do 32 hybrids. Why would we want to spend all these precious minerals and burn all these fossil fuels for one battery when we can do the same and get a lot more out of 32 of them? Appreciate your call. Yes. All right, Matthew and Irving, you are next, my man. Plus your call. Are you ready for an EV? Would you buy a hybrid, or are you all in for gas-powered cars only still and for the foreseeable future? Are you willing to buy one before Joe Biden's mandate kicks in around 2032? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Oh, I got much more on what these specific rules are, what's expected to happen, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, WBAP. Joe Biden trying to make us buy overwhelming, like about 44, up to 44% of all cars need to be electric by 2030, even more by 2032. Are you interested? Are you ready right now to get an EV? And will you be buying one before Biden's mandates in 2030, 2022? Would you buy a hybrid, or are you still into gas-powered cars only? Real quick before we go to your call at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. 3 lines open. The American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers President and CEO, and American Petroleum Institute President and CEO, both called on Congress to intervene and block this plan. This regulation for the EPA announced today will make new gas-powered vehicles unavailable or prohibitively expensive for most Americans. Can you imagine that? The most cost-effective, least expensive vehicle they're going to try to force us out of because they got lots of money. They don't care about us. They foist this crap on us, and they will be allowed to control our lives more. It is a virtue scam, producer Garrett. A wide slate of industry groups also came out representing farmers, consumers, and auto dealers have the same thing. They've warned consequences of these regulations from Joe Biden's EPA. It'll hurt family farms, rural communities that rely on heavily sale of biofuels. On top of that, it'll remove consumer choice from the market. That's my biggest thing. You will not make me buy something I don't want. They didn't make us buy the Model T, and it worked. They didn't make us buy black and white TVs or color TVs, and it worked on its own. No regulation. Let's go to Matthew in Irving. You're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Matthew.
Good evening. I'm loving the conversations that you're having right now. The hypocrisy of the left is so on board here. You know, they talk about, we can't drill in Alaska. It can do damage, to people. Well, what about the children that are working in the mines to come up with all of these batteries and materials? What about the heartache? We don't worry about them. But you don't hear any questions from the liberal media about that, so they never have to face the music on it. And where is Obama? I'm sorry, not Obama. I might as well be Obama, except he's not near as smart. Well, where's Joe Biden going? You know what? I'm so committed to this. I'm going to get rid of my Corvette. I'm not even allowed to drive anymore. But come on, man, I'm going to get rid of my Corvette. And but he's not doing that. Why isn't the Beast and all of his motorcade? Why haven't they gone to electric vehicles? Because they're unreliable. Because you can't just fill them up and go.
Exactly right. Exactly right. The Beast can't. You can't power something that weighs that much and is that powerful and that immune to all sorts of attacks by electric vehicle battery. I mean, you can't.
It's no different than they want to crack down on guns. Yet who has more guns around them? High-ranking liberals.
Will you ever? Exactly right. Will you ever consider, as of right now, in the foreseeable future, now in 2030, ever buy an EV?
Well, here's where my hypocrisy shows up. I'm a gearhead. I'm a car guy, but I really like the looks of the new Prius. And I told my friends that I'm officially, I'm officially a whacked out lib now because I really like
the Prius. Which one, the hybrid or an electric one, or what?
The hybrid. I'm never getting away from a combustion engine. It's too reliable.
Correct.
And think about the the lunacy of the left and these union employees who the left comes out and says, like the coal miners, we're going to shut you down.
Right.
They still vote Democrat. We're going to make it to where we're not having any cars because nobody's going to be able to afford them.
Yeah.
Because they're all going to be electric. But you know what? You'll just keep voting for us anyway.
Well, do you remember that lady driving an EV that ran out of power and had no plugins anywhere, and coal miners pushed her car for her to the coal mining place to plug in?
Yeah,
That's the truth about all this. So
yeah, it's hypocrisy and lunacy.
I don't think you're selling out by getting a Prius, though, because the Prius has been going on for what, like 10 years, 12 years, 14 years?
I mean, yeah, Toyota, I mean, they've got it down to a science. They were on this way before.
I'm a Toyota guy. I'm all Toyota.
I am too. I am. I'm a car guy. I run restaurants for a living, but I flip cars on the side, and all I flip are Lexus.
Lexus, you said?
So reliable. Yeah.
Yes,
so
I do. I want one, and I know that you can drive it to like 250,000 miles, and it's still going to be a reliable, awesome car as long as you take care of it and maintain it.
Absolutely. All Toyotas are like that. Even the Scions, and but that new Prius, it's a sharp-looking car.
Now, can they shut off your like they can with an EV? Can they shut off or control your hybrid as far as you're aware of?
No, and that's the beauty of the hybrid is, again, they can shut down the electric side of it,
okay,
but it's still running on petrol.
Can you eliminate the electric side of it so you can just go full gas if you want to? Is that possible as far as you're aware?
I know on 2 generations back you could on the but I'm not 100% sure now. I'm
okay. This is where one of those old. This is where you sometimes say sticking with the older one is better. I'm not saying you're wrong either about the Prius at all. I appreciate your call, Matt. You're a great caller. Please call in again, brother. Matt in Temple, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Matt.
Hey, bud. How are you, sir?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hey, I actually did buy a Tesla. And I bought it because I needed a tax write-off and because I wasn't going to get rid of it.
You didn't buy it because you wanted you buy it for the tax write-off. I'm just kidding around.
I bought it for the tax write-off, and I bought it because we didn't get rid of my wife's old Tahoe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fantastic because I have a gas car sitting right next to it. So if we're going to go somewhere that's out of range, we hop in the gas car.
So do you only keep the Tesla in the Metroplex as far as run it in the Metroplex?
Well, we live about 2.5 hours south of the Metroplex.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're in Temple. That's right. I'm sorry. You're in Central Texas. You're by Temple, Killeen. You're by Killeen. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for my wife to drop the kids off to school, it's 30 minutes into town.
Yeah.
And it's 30 minutes home. If she goes to pick the kids up, it's 30 minutes into town, 30 minutes home. If she runs errands, so we're talking about 2.5 hours of driving a day. She was filling her Tahoe up.
Let me put you on hold for a second. I want to ask you a few more questions about your experience with it, okay? Can you do that, brother?
Yeah.
Stand by. I wanted to ask him a few questions about the practicality of it in detail a little bit more. Coming up next. And then we're going to get to something else here. A horrifying case. A Texas toddler run over by an Uber driver after he drops her and her family off. Who's to blame for this and what happened? It's pretty sad what happened after this happened, like immediately to the driver. All that next. Chris Crock Show, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Regarding EVs, are you ready for an electric vehicle? Biden's foisting them upon us even more today with his EPA mandates. Will you be buying one before Biden's mandate in 2030, 2032? Or will you buy a hybrid? Or are you still into gas-powered only like I am as of right now? That's next. Chris Crock Show, WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. Talking about electric vehicles, Joe Biden's EPA today announcing new regulations that will crack down even more, and they say compel in some articles, but really it's forcing the sale of electric vehicles and hybrids. Hybrids are fine. I don't. But we shouldn't be forced to buy anything. That is un-American. And another point made on this is a lot of these rare earth minerals come from China. To get a handful of rare earth minerals, China digs through where they use fossil fuel to dig and excavate the rare earth minerals. And when they do, they have to get like 2 tons of rock to get a handful of minerals. It is a massive belching of carbon into the environment. This is not clean. Now, and the question, of course, is, are you ready for an electric car? Will you be buying one before Biden's mandate? comes in around 2030, 2032, or after them. And would you buy a hybrid? Are you still into gas-powered cars only, which I am? I'm open to talking hybrid for sure, but I'm just not into EVs at all. Now, Matt has been kind enough from Temple. He has a gas-powered car, but he also has a Tesla. Matt, thanks for holding for a little bit longer just to give me a few answers on this as a Tesla owner. So you have two cars. You said one's gas and one is the Tesla, right?
Well, I have 5 cars. I have two diesel pickups that are for me. My wife has a Tahoe, and then we bought her a Tesla as well.
Okay, so I think one of the things that I think is happening a lot is I think that a lot of the EV owners, they have another gas car, or or in your case, 5 other gas cars, which is great. I'm happy for you, But the idea that it should be our car for if somebody only has one car, would you advise getting an electric vehicle if you only have the money for one vehicle?
Absolutely not.
Why is that?
Because I live down here and I work in my work is in Dallas.
Okay, and you live in Temple, yes, which is Central Texas, yes.
Yes, sir. Or down on the west side of Austin. Mm-hmm. I can't make it there and back on a charge. So it doesn't make sense. It makes sense for my wife to go get the kids, to go get groceries, to go do that kind of stuff. It makes sense because I have a gas vehicle sitting right next to it. The hybrid deal, I don't know how I feel about that. The reason I bought the electric vehicle is because I do all of our maintenance on all of our vehicles.
Okay.
And there's a lot of maintenance. Transfer cases, transmissions, front and rear differentials.
For the EV, you mean, or for the gas power?
For the gas-powered vehicles. Right. On the electric vehicle, one of my customers had one, and he's the one who kind of turned me on to them. The only thing you do to them is you put windshield washer fluid, tires, and windshield wipers on them. And that was kind of the big deal. When you start going to the hybrid stuff, you're kind of getting the maintenance of the electric.
Both. Right.
Right. You're getting the maintenance of both. You got the big cost of the battery, but you also have all the maintenance on maintaining all the other components of a gas-powered vehicle. So then the mileage just doesn't seem to compute. You start doing the math, you're not saving that much on fuel. Those hybrids aren't where they need to be. I had one of those diesel Passats. I was getting 50 miles a gallon. Mm-hmm. It was fantastic.
You can't beat a diesel and a Volkswagen diesel. At least my dad had a Jetta when I was in high school, and he loved that car. We loved that car, and it was a diesel Jetta, and it was awesome until some illegals caused a bad crash that was their fault and it totaled the car. But so you had a Volkswagen Passat diesel. You have one, you said, that's 50 miles to the gallon.
I did have one. And then when they had the emissions deal, they bought it back, and I basically drove a car for 4 years and paid $2,000 because they bought it back for... Nice. Yeah, it worked out good.
Okay, so you're not sold on per se on hybrids, but you're sold on gas and you're sold on electric, at least for the local version of your car for electric. How much? Okay, how much was the Tesla, if I may ask, and how much is the battery going to be? And is it going to be around 5 years from when you bought it, roughly, from what I hear?
I just bought it in December, and they say it's $37,000, but that's a lie. That's with the tax credit if you qualify for it, and that's also with...
Wait, $37,000 for the car or for the... Yeah?
That's what they advertise is $37,000 for the car. Mm-hmm. But they're advertising saying it's $37,000, but they're including what they think you're going to save in gas, and they're also including a $7,500 tax credit if you qualify for it. I didn't qualify for it because I made too much money.
Okay. Second of all, look at this. The gas mileage, or the mileage you get on that car for whatever you want to call it. It's not gas mileage anymore, but it's the energy mileage, whatever they call it. The mileage on EVs is statistically on the lot is way higher than it actually is. It's over-advertised, way over, from news stories I've read. And the gas mileage for gasoline-powered cars on lots now is under mileage, if you will. So the mileage you see on the average for the sticker at the car dealership for gas is lower than it should be, and the one for EVs is higher than it's supposed to be because it's not correct. They both are not correct. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you know what the battery is going to be at how many thousand miles you're going to have to get a battery?
I guess it depends on how you treat them. If you supercharge them versus if you plug them in at your house. They say a plugged-in Tesla is a happy Tesla is what they told us. and we only plug it in at the house. We don't take it anywhere other than, just around town.
So it's not practical to go, like you said, beyond around town, because if you do, you're going to have to sit there. How long does it take to charge it up? Because it's better for the battery to not charge it fast charger, you're saying. So how much does it cost? How long does it take to fill it up, to charge it up?
They say to charge it to 80%. She normally comes home with about 40 to 50% on it, and you plug it in, and it's fine in the morning.
Okay, but so it's an overnight deal. The point is, it's an overnight deal, or at least to start, 8 hours or something, probably.
I don't think it's that long because we're not charging. We only charge it to 80% like they told us.
Yeah,
and she comes back at 40-50%. So it's really, maybe 2 or 3 hours, but we're not max ranging it every day.
It's just not practical other than driving around town, is basically what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
There you go. That's what I thought. Okay, listen, Matt, thank you very much. And you're not worried about them shutting it down if the government tries to take this stuff over in 5 or 10 years. The way we're going as a country, who knows what, right? Because they can shut that down, but you have your gas-powered.
Yeah, I've got 4 other gas-powered vehicles, and all my stuff, all my pickups are old enough where there's no computer. So.
Amen. All right, brother. Thanks for your call. Glad you're listening, and glad you chimed in. Thanks.
See you, bud.
All right, there he goes. Matt from Temple, y'all. Okay. This is a scary one. It's not a scary one. It's a sad one. An Uber driver. I've got some audio from WFA TV Channel 8 sister station KHU in Houston where this happened. On Sunday afternoon, a mom and I think 2 kids. It was a mother and a 6-year-old. Exited the man's Volkswagen Atlas. It's an SUV, and apparently the other adult stepped out from the other side, the passenger side. There was a toddler that apparently was with the car, and the toddler was not with the family as they walked away from the car. So the family walks away from the car, and the driver does not see anybody in front of the car, and so he goes forward, and unfortunately, he runs over the child, a 2-year-old girl, and it's horrifying. And then what happens afterward is even worse. That is next on the Chris Crock Show. We've got the audio from the story as well that I'll play for you, and the question will be, who do you blame for this tragedy? What's real sad is what happened also to the driver after what happened to the kid, which is really, really sad. That's next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Make it a preset. All right, this case is absolutely terrible. You have it's actually a 1-year-old. I got it wrong. I thought it was a 2-year-old, but it's a 1-year-old girl. So you have a family that calls an Uber and gets dropped off at their apartment. This is at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, so broad daylight. There's cameras. You can see it. Unfortunately, they digitize out the area of horror, but nonetheless, you can see what happens. You have 2 adults in the car and 2 children. One child apparently is a 1-year-old girl. The other one is a 6-year-old. And they get out of the vehicle on both sides. On the passenger side and on the driver's side, in the back, obviously. So, and I'll read from the Daily Mail's interpretation of this story from KHU in Houston, which is a sister station of WFA TV Channel 8. And as the driver, apparently what happened is that the adults and the 6-year-old walked away from the car, and nobody apparently, from what I see in that video, looks back to the 1-year-old. So a 1-year-old is allowed to literally walk on their own. And then you see the 1-year-old walk in front of the car, and then they still frame it because at that point the kid gets run over. And then apparently the driver runs over the kid, and then apparently the kid gets stuck in the rear tire vehicle, something or other, like stuck in there. Oh, my Lord Jesus. And so the man tries to break her free, Passengers who witnessed the incident ran inside and came back with a large group who then beat the crap out of the driver. I mean, you're beating up a man for your mistake, your sin. Because how many parents have you seen that, whether they be getting in a car or crossing a busy city street where you and I are driving, and you see these idiots, and their kid is behind them, and they're not even looking at them or holding their hand? That's what this is. That's what I see in this video. I see a 1-year-old being allowed to fend for herself while they all turn around, walk away towards their apartment, while the 1-year-old's expected to tug along behind on their own. And a 1-year-old does what a 1-year-old does and walks right in front of that man's car, and you cannot see the kid's head above a car. What do you think? A 1-year-old with a Volkswagen, what's it called again? I mentioned it earlier. It's the SUV Volkswagen. And Atlas, the Volkswagen Atlas. That's the big one, too. That's like the three-passenger, the three-seater one. You know what I mean? You ain't going to see a 1-year-old child, walking in front of your car. That is not his responsibility. He was clear. Why was he clear? Nothing was in front of him. He did not see the child because the child is below the height of the vehicle, the hood. That is the parent's job. Your job is to either hold your kid by the hand or pick your kid up and walk them away from the danger. And they did not. And what is that's a horror right there. The kid getting ran over. Then the man stops the car. He doesn't try to flee or anything. He stops the car. He tries to get the kid, taken out of this vehicle. I'll read it the way they say it. The man stopped the vehicle, but the juvenile was stuck under the left rear tire. The man then attempted to move the vehicle, but was unsuccessful due to all parties assaulting him, pulling him from the vehicle, and beating the crap out of him. They put him in the hospital. Here's the audio from this story from KU. My question for you is, who do you blame for this tragedy? Do you blame the driver, or do you blame the parent or parents who literally left their 1-year-old to fend for themselves and walk away from the car as they all turned their backs and walked away from that kid? To me, they turned their backs and walked away from that kid, which left that kid to die because that kid is not responsible for herself. She's one. So if they wanted to beat anybody up, they should have been beating themselves up. And I would pray that you and I would do the same thing. And I actually would pray that you and I wouldn't even be in that situation with our kid because we wouldn't let them. But I see this all the time, don't you? Do you see this? You've seen this in parking lots? Have you seen this with street crossing? Have you seen adults let their child fend for themselves when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, like I have? And like happened in this case? Yes, producer Garrett says especially nowadays. I see it all the time. I want to yell at them. I'll see them in a busy place in Dallas. In a busy Dallas neighborhood in the city, and I'm like, what are you doing? Do you want your child to die? What in God's name is wrong with you? Do you have any common sense? No. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Who do you blame in this situation? Do you really blame the driver? Do you blame the parents? By the way, they haven't decided if they're going to charge the parents for the horrific beatdown on this poor man who has to deal with the sound and the feeling of running over a child's body, the horror of seeing it and trying to get it out, and then the double horror of being beat the hell out of after double traumatized this man who's in the hospital now.
I just heard a lot of commotion outside, and I just came outside, and I just seen, like, blood and a baby laying on the ground. It was just so traumatic, because I was just thinking about my baby, my son or anybody else's kids. It was just so, I couldn't do it. I couldn't even.
He's in a serious condition, non-life-threatening, but serious.
It's just sad to watch and to know, because I see her outside almost every other day playing with her little toys and stuff, and just to know that happened to that little baby.
It's just an unfortunate tragedy at this point.
That woman who witnessed it, you heard, and that the person you heard there was a sheriff's deputy who was on the scene handling it all. And so they may charge the family members. They should. I mean, they went inside the house. Instead of going to that baby and trying to do whatever they could to save her or whatever, they run to the house and get a mob of people to come beat the hell out of this guy. What in God's name is wrong with you? 800-288-WBAP is the number, 800-288-9227. Who do you blame for this tragedy? I mean, I blame the parents. They're in charge of they're responsible for the 1-year-old. I saw a video that was on the Daily Mail yesterday. Went all over the place on the viral sphere of these pathetic parents that were, it looked like high on drugs, passed out on the beach. And their 1-year-old and 5-year-old were found like wandering around, and so the sheriff's office arrested, picked up the parents. CPS took custody of them, and they arrested the parents, passed out, drugged up on the beach. And the idiot dad was arrested, and he tried to run away after they put cuffs on him. He was like a floppy whale trying to run away and like falling on the ground. But these are the kind of parents that are out there. There's a lot of them out there. Could you imagine being these poor kids' teachers dealing with these parents? Okay, a really, really, really compelling, strong message from Chiefs Harrison Butker. Never heard of him in my life. He's the kicker for the Chiefs. The jersey he was wearing, you remember the one lady who died in the Chiefs Super Bowl rally, shot to death by a thug in the streets there? Not by any mess. They didn't do any anti-gun on that one. It was wrong people, right? But she was wearing a Harrison Butker jersey when she was killed. So he was interviewed about that, and you're not going to believe what he says about whether it's guns that he blames or something else with this kind of a horrible shooting. That's next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.